welcome to our first Pittsburgh Sportsline podcast during the coronavirus social distancing. I'm Al Levine, the talking machine, with my co-host Smokin Jim Frazier. You want to say hi, Smokin?
Hey, Al Levine, the talking machine. Great to hear your voice, buddy.
Great to hear you, too. We're going to talk some sports for a little bit, try to help people out from being bored with their routines. I know I'm practicing my social distancing here, not going out much and staying healthy. I'm alive and well, still doing well after that kidney transplant 7 months ago. How are you doing, Smokin Jim?
Man, I tell you what, Al Levine, the talking machine, I discovered a brand new show, man. I don't know if you ever heard of it. I've never seen it before in my life, but I'm enjoying it. A show called Gunsmoke. I don't know if you ever heard of it, brother. But
yeah, I watched it. Let me explain something. I watched it as a kid, my friend.
I love it, man.
Well, we
show.
can talk about Gunsmoke and Matt Dillon and all that later, and all those different shows that I watched and Festus and stuff like that. But, you know, I'm glad you're on there. But I usually do my promos, so I'm going to start with my couple promos that I do. First, we're going to shout out to Olive Oil's Pizzeria, 412-831-1900. They sponsor our live TV show every Tuesday night, and this is in lieu of our Tuesday night shows, which have been shut down because of our studio being shut down. And give them a call. I think they're still open. I saw their lights on the other night when I drove by. Didn't stop in because I'm keeping my distance. And another one that we honor is the Joey Fabus Childhood Cancer Foundation. Poor Joey died in his 9th birthday with the dreaded brain cancer, DIPG. And you can go to the Joey Fabus Childhood Cancer Foundation, find out more about what they do. This family in the last 5 years has raised over $100,000 to give to the doctors to find a cure for DIPG. So they do great things. They do a September 1 mile 5K superhero walk, and they raise their most money during that event. So check that out. See if you can help them out with $1 your time once we get the okay to go back out in the public again. I'm sure they're going to try to do their event. They do a lot of great things. Next up, right here in Bethel Park, the Bethel Park Historical Society Schoolhouse Arts and History Center, 2600 South Park Road. They do a lot of great things in the community. Go to their website. They're a nonprofit. You can donate money to them. Check them out. They have a great coffee shop where I get my loose leaf green tea. They're shut down right now, but you got to go to Reginald's Coffee. But check this great venue out. It's an old schoolhouse from 1905. They've done 50 new windows, $140,000 roof, and they run activities and all kind of great things in the community, and great people work there. So check them out. Next up, Dave Cable always likes to make fun of me. Well, we're going to need volunteers after this coronavirus settles down. And I want you for BPTV. You can give a call, 412-831-3304. Tell them you want to be a volunteer for cameras, audio, even when we do on-location shows. So check that out. Next up, I'm a trustee on the Bethel Park Community Foundation. They're a great organization in Bethel Park. They've been around for 25 years. They've given out over $970,000 to local groups, helping to boost the community in Bethel Park. They have grant money for you from $100 to $5,000. So go to bpcf.org, get an application. When we have meetings again, come on in and ask for some money for your groups. So we got those things going on. I wanted to get that out of the way, and just wanted to give an update. The NHL season's been put on hold. We miss our Penguins. I had high hopes for a Stanley Cup. Our baseball season's on hold, and we'll talk about that a little later on. And the NBA season's on hold also. So we're going to see what happens. We just had an announcement by the president that he thinks this will all be over by August, September. So that's good for the NFL schedule. They're going to try to do their season regularly scheduled. So we'll see what happens. And speaking of the NFL, We miss our Steelers and the updates, but we got a draft coming up on the 23rd, and I got to bring in the Steelers scout and NFL scout, my buddy Smokin Jim Frazier. What's going on in the Steeler camp?
Hey, Levine, the talking machine. I tell you what, man, the Steelers, the NFL is never out of business, man. With free agency and the draft coming up, man, they're always headline news. But the Pittsburgh,
hey, and then you have Tom Brady went to the Buccaneers.
Yeah, we definitely got to talk about that. But I tell you what, man, the Pittsburgh Steelers signed a free agent, outstanding tight end by the name of Eric Ebron. And I tell you what, Levine, the talking machine, with him and Vance McDonald, both of those guys are fast. So I'm interested.
Ebron can catch some passes. He can catch some passes, unlike McDonald, who's been a little injury and has those bad hands.
Well, I'm interested to see them race, to see who gets to the training staff and doctors the quickest. Both of them guys can't stay healthy, man. I tell you what, Ebron had one good year. For Indianapolis, he kind of bounced around. He had 13 touchdowns. He's never had double-digit touchdowns in any other season. 4 out of his 6 seasons ended in injury. He got a lot of leg problems, ankles, hamstring, and knees. And you're a former athlete, Levine, the talking machine, and you know for a fact that, you know what I mean, there's so many fine ligaments and tendons in your ankle. His ankle is still not
I know. I got to tell you a little story. My senior year, it'll talk about injuries. Here's what happened. You know, I went to Keystone Oaks, so
yes,
it's 1973, 74 because I graduated in 74. So it's a 73, 74 season. We're finishing up our drills before the season started, right?
Right.
So we're doing the last offensive play, and I had a little guard. I'll never forget his name, Danny Saints, about 5'2".
Okay.
So I'm the center. Here's the play. Quarterback calls a play. It's a pass play. We go to pass. Danny Saints gets knocked onto my ankle.
Wow.
And they thought it was broken. They had to call the ambulance. Now, this is my senior year. I'm the starting center, all pumped up for the season. They call my parents. They're all upset. They say they're taking me to Mercy Hospital. They put me in a blow-up cast because they didn't know what happened. I'm in the emergency room in my uniform. My mother and father come there, and my mother's scared to death. And you'd have loved her. She just was the kindest person ever. And she said, my poor Alan, you got to help him. So they take me in. The doctor looks at it, says, you just got a bad sprain. I go, Doc, can I play on Friday? He goes, I don't think so. Because it was only 2 days away. Because I think it was only a day away because it was Thursday. But so he goes, no, but you got to elevate that leg. We got to get ice on it. You know, we're going to wrap it and all that stuff. So I missed the first game of my senior year due to an ankle injury. Then they were going to shut me out of my second week, but the swelling went down. I kept my leg elevated the whole time, you know, that I wasn't in school, and the swelling went down, and they still had me on restrictions whether I could go and play. So I was begging the coach because I dressed for the game to let me play. They called my dad down from the stand, said, can your son play? He goes, if he wants to play, let him play. So they only let me in on some snaps for the punting team.
Okay.
And then the rest of the year I had ankle troubles my whole senior year. But I ended up, I was doing really well. They even said I was one of the better centers in the league at that time, even on one leg. So that's what I know about injuries. I had to share that for all you fans out there and maybe even remember back in 1973, the fall of 73 in my senior year.
Well, I assume that 1 week that you had your leg elevated, you was homeschooled that week.
No, I was still struggling going to school. I had to have crutches and it was a good attention grabber because they were all coming up to me. So, but I know about injuries, buddy. That stayed with me my whole year. It affected how I ran the whole year. It just never healed up right.
Wow.
So we'll see if your tight ends can stay healthy this year. We need them.
Well, I tell you what, man, there's two outstanding tight ends right there. And, the Pittsburgh Steelers been busy in the offseason. I think they're the only team that signed 3 players from the XFL. If they're doing that, if I was them, I would sign Deontay Wilder. He ain't busy right now. He's 6'7", 231 pounds. They can always use another tight end that don't like to get hit.
Maybe we could just put him in as a left tackle.
Yeah, well, you put him in a tight end.
He could hit people, right?
Yeah, he don't like to get hit like Nick Van Nett and Zach Gentry, who's also on the Steeler roster. The Pittsburgh Steelers lost a 5th-round draft pick when they reached and traded in Seattle. In my opinion, the 5th round is a very high draft pick. This is a very unusual year for the Pittsburgh Steelers because they gave up a 1st-round draft pick when they got Mika Fitzpatrick, who's going to be outstanding. They lost a 3rd-round pick.
He proved why he was a number 1 draft pick, didn't he?
Yeah, they definitely did. And their defense is, because of it, he solidified that defense. They got an outstanding defense, but this is a lot of holes in this year's draft. I got to give the Pittsburgh Steelers a shout-out because they got rid of Ramon Foster, who I've been saying they needed to get rid of for a long time, the only left guard in Pittsburgh Steelers history who couldn't pull. So now they got a guy in there, Winooski, who I'm friends with his dad. His dad, Leo, was a great player for Fox Chapel. His uncle, Steve Winooski, was outstanding, 8-time Pro Bowler for the Oakland Raiders. And I think this guy's going to come in and at left guard and really give us a boost on the offensive line. He's a smart kid. He was a 3-time academic All-American at Penn State. And you know how well I like Penn State now that the assistant head coach is Terry Smith. I
know. You're a huge fan of Penn State. And I'm a fan also since my daughter went to school there. So,
hey, congratulations.
She did it in 4 years too, buddy. So 3 degrees. So shout out to Casey. Very good.
Wow. How many degrees?
3.
She got 3 degrees?
Communications, arts, science, English, and rhetoric because of how I talk.
Chip off the old block.
Yeah, only I'm uneducated. I'm like you. I'm unlike you. I didn't go to Cal U and get 20 degrees. So
I got my degree.
I just want to see that paper they're on. That's all. I saw my daughters and held them up for pictures, so I know what they look like. You can't fool me. So we don't have a 1st-round pick. Who do you like in the 2nd round for the Steelers?
Well, I tell you what, Levine, the talking machine. If you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers needs, and they were many, I would say, in my opinion, the biggest need is running back. And if you look at and this is a great year for running backs coming out of college. You got DeAndre Swift from Georgia and Jonathan Taylor from Wisconsin. Those 2 guys will probably be gone in the 1st round. In the 2nd round, I really like a kid from Boston College who's projected to go in the 3rd or 4th round. His name is A.J. Dillon. He's 250 pounds.
I've heard about him. I heard he's a big beast, and he has some speed.
He got some speed. He runs north-south. He's a perfect blue-collar back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, my number 1 rated running back, and I told you about him before. Nobody's talking about him. In the later round, 6th, 7th round, I would get him. It kind of reminds me of Christian Okoye, the Nigerian Nightmare. This is a guy, and if you remember when Christian Okoye was drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs and Hall of Fame coach Bill Cowher was on their staff, in the first round, they drafted a running back out of Temple who was coached by Bruce Arians at Temple named Paul Boo Palmer. So I think this is another year that you take 2 running backs in the draft. I think in the later rounds you take I'll spell his name for you, Sewo, Suo, I guess, and his last name is Olonilua. And I know you know more about black people than anybody, so you may be able to pronounce that better than me. But he's 6'3", 250
Send me a text. I'll look at how it's written.
He squats 700 pounds. He runs a 40 and 4.4. He can catch. He can do everything. He's the next Nigerian Nightmare. For some reason, the NFL scouts is not up on this kid. If the Pittsburgh Steelers can get him in the 5th or 6th round, I guarantee you he'll be a superstar in the National Football League.
Wow. That sounds good.
So that's where I think the Pittsburgh Steelers have to go in the 2nd round. They have to get a running back. I told you when he was coming out of school, when the Steelers drafted James Conner, we both loved Conner. I said then James Conner will be often injured because he's a 190-pound bone structure on his frame, but because of his work ethic, he put 240 pounds of muscle on there, and because of that, I felt like he was going to be often injured. You can get away with that when you're a teenager. When you start getting into your 20s, your bones start giving away a little bit because you got too much muscle on a small frame, and that's what we're seeing. The Steelers really like, and I like Jalen Samuels, and some people like Benny Snell Jr., but I think it's obvious after last year that Pittsburgh Steelers need a little help in the running game.
What about that line? That line was supposed to be so good, but they got rid of Munchak, and his replacement really didn't show me anything because the line looked terrible most of the year.
Which I predicted. Mike Munchak is a NFL Hall of Fame.
I know. That's why I'm pumping you up, buddy. I'm on your side now.
Greatest offensive, one of the greatest offensive linemen ever to play college and in the NFL. A genius. A lot of the flaws that you see in the offensive line would have been covered up, and the adjustments would have been made by Mike Munchak. But the Pittsburgh Steelers decided, as usual, to hire his coffee boy, with really no experience.
Well, they are loyal. You got to give them credit. They're loyal to their people, though, right?
Well, loyalty in ability is a lot different. You have to listen. Chuck Noll had one of the greatest. He's always had one of the greatest coaching staff of all time. We know Bill Cowers had always had the greatest coaching staff of one time. You have to be able to hire the right coaches and develop the right coaches like you do players. There's not one coach on this current coaching staff that is even considered to be a coordinator at another team, let alone a head coach, which has to go down as the worst coaching staff the Pittsburgh Steelers have put together since 1967.
Wow. Yeah, but you don't know the history of the Steelers. When Art Rooney Sr. was in charge, he invited his drinking buddies and other people to be coaches, and that's why they had 40-some years of no success. There was no curse. There was no curse.
Don't know that history. I definitely
you got to learn that history. It's in the books.
I can only speak for great coaches like Chuck Noll and Bill Cowher. Outstanding coaches who are deserving of Hall of Fame recognition. In fact, if I had to evaluate the Pittsburgh Steelers coaching staff, I'd get rid of guys right now today. What is John Mitchell still doing on staff? He's assistant head coach and the biggest waste of money in NFL history. You got Randy Fichtner, offensive coordinator. You and I both said that the offensive coordinator was Big Ben. It was exposed last year when Randy Fichtner didn't have Big Ben. Tried to run a similar plays with no quarterback coach as well. How about the tight end coach, James Daniels? Tight ends looked horrible. The running back coach, Eddie Faulkner, You know what I mean? And like you said, we already talked about Sean Surratt, the offensive line coach. So Pittsburgh Steelers defensively is set. Offensively, there's a lot of holes, including holes in the coaching staff.
I understand it. He's had great success for some unknown reason. You give him a D in every draft, and for some reason he hasn't had a losing year. How do you explain that?
Well, the one good thing is you got a Hall of Fame quarterback, and that always helps. You thank goodness for Bill Cowher for drafting, Big Ben. And that always helps, same way it helped Belichick in New England. So, but... Yeah,
well, just like Shula down there in Miami with Marino, even though they didn't win any Super Bowls with him, but he had a heck of an offense. He set every passing record in history.
Well, we can't compare Don Shula with Mike Tomlin. Don Shula is a heck of a genius. Don Shula is a coaching genius. From the Baltimore Colts to the Miami Dolphins, who used to dominate the Pittsburgh Steelers long before they had Dan Marino with Greasy and Zonka and Kick and Mercury Morris.
Buddy.
Yeah,
good point.
And let's not forget Nick Bonacarni. I loved him too.
How could you not? That nameless defense.
Yeah,
great middle linebacker.
Name defense, man. But hey, we got to put blame where blame is due. Everybody is blaming Bill Belichick for running Tom Brady out of Tampa Bay. In my opinion, that's the furthest thing from the truth. Tom Brady could have stayed. I think his arrogance and his ego made him turn his back on the fans. Listen, the owners love Brady. They'd have brought Brady back. He's an old quarterback. They give him a one year contract. Other than Big Ben, all the older quarterbacks are only getting 1 year deals. You got Drew Brees still don't have a contract down there in New Orleans. He's only going to get a year. Phillip Rivers had to leave San Diego because they wouldn't give him a long-term deal. Eli Manning's out of football. You're an older quarterback. Brady turned his back on Tampa Bay. I think it's the worst thing that happened in football since the San Francisco 49ers let Y.A. Tittle go, and he went on to play 3 more years.
Wow, you're going back in history.
Yeah, he played 3 more years at 35 years old for the New York Giants and went to two Pro Bowls out of those 3 years. I think Tom Brady's going to do great with Tampa Bay because, number one, they got the best coach in football, which is Bruce.
How about the
Arians.
2 best wide receivers in the game there they have?
Well, they got 2 outstanding wide receivers. They got a tight end, O.J. Howard, that's outstanding out of Alabama. The offense is going to be all that. They won't win a Super Bowl because they're 1 player away, and that 1 player is Antonio Brown. If they'd have brought in Antonio Brown, put him in a slot, I think they would be Super Bowl favorites. In my opinion.
He did something unusual. He ended his career on his own.
Well, the NFL still hasn't started made a decision.
Well, let me repeat that. He ended his career because he got too crazy to fit in with the crazy lunatics that are there normally. Well, he got out crazy than the craziest.
Well, that's something we also predicted. Levine, the talking machine. We said many times on Pittsburgh Sportsline that we compared it with John Jefferson, who was a Hall of Fame receiver, but he wanted out of San Diego because Lynn Swann got a $400,000 contract. He wanted his contract renewed to make more than Lynn Swann. He went to Green Bay, never heard from him again. Eric Dickerson, got upset with the Rams. The offense was perfect around him. He goes to Indianapolis. He still makes the Hall of Fame, but he wasn't the all-time great he would have been if he'd have stayed with the Rams. You see it time and time again. Antonio Brown and Big Ben would have broke every passing record for a combination receiver and quarterback. And Antonio Brown right now, I know he's regretting it. He's been out of football for a year. I'm not even sure he can really dominate as a outside wide receiver anymore. I think he's still quick enough to play in the slot, so Tampa Bay would have been a great fit for him. But he may have to sit out another year. I don't see another team picking him up.
Smokin Jim, when you're a smart guy, even though you don't prove it all the time, but he got what I call a 2-cent. Antonio has what I call a 2-cent brain and multi-million-dollar hands. And that's what overruled him, because the 2-cent brain started coming out with what he was doing personally, professionally, and everything else. He just got too crazy there. And one hit from Burfict didn't cause it. He was always like this. They just only kept him under wraps by spoiling him so much, because you can't treat your kids special. You can't make the one kid and tell him he's special. No family does that, at least no good family. And that's part of what happens in life. And we all try to raise our kids and don't show any favoritism. I know your dad didn't show you any favoritism with that belt. That's for sure.
Yeah, his belt should be in the Hall of Fame. But hey, and I deserved every beat I ever got. But I tell you what,
I'm sure he even missed a few of them for you because you were too sneaky.
Yeah, quite a bit, brother. But I tell you what, Levine, the talking machine, I took a lot of personal hit. When I said, after the, I believe it was the Kansas City game when Antonio Brown went Facebook Live, I said, you got to cut him right there. Even if you get nothing from him, he stepped over the line and everybody said I was crazy. No, you don't get rid of a guy for that reason.
Well, you like being honest. You like being honest, and I remember that. You were right about that, for sure.
But it breaks my heart because I think the kid is going to end up being broke. And, the one girl he's been having problems with, she popped up pregnant, so he's going to have another kid with her.
Wow.
So,
what's he have, like 5 kids already? I think he has 5 already.
Yeah. Number 6, man. And,
wow.
At least some things are still working, all right. But I tell you what, man, he's going to go through a lot of depression, a lot of this or that, and he's going to end up being broke, man. And I feel bad for him. And he's
on that right path. Again, that's that 2-cent brain I keep talking about. All right, what else with the Steelers there? Any more you want to discuss about the Steelers?
Well, I think we pretty much covered it, man. I give the Steelers a lot of credit, man. They brought in Derek Watt, and I've always said that T.J. Watt was the greatest linebacker in Pittsburgh Steelers history. Of course, I said that when he was a rookie, when no need to wait around for him to do all the great things he's been doing ever since then. But I think Derek Watt is going to be an added addition to the team. The Steelers need help in their special teams, which they got a bum special team coach and Danny Smith, bubblegum chewing Danny Smith.
How's he still there? That's what I want to know. How is he still there?
Well, you got to point at the head coach again, Mike Tomlin, who's a good friend of mine. But I would have brought in Mike. Who's that Dallas Cowboys now? What's my man's name? Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy. Yeah. I'd have brought in Mike McCarthy, but you can't do that now. You got to live and die with.
Well, he's the head coach now, and he's from Greenfield, so he'll do well.
He'd have been excellent here. He's a quarterback guru. He put some things together offensively and had the Steelers moving in the right direction in the post Big Ben era. But I like this Derek Watt. He's going to be doing good on special teams. And don't forget, he played at Wisconsin. He was the fullback, and Melvin Gordon was the tailback. So Melvin Gordon always had, in college and in the pros, Derek Watt. So is there a connection that maybe Melvin Gordon may be coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers? Of course, I hope not.
We can't afford them. We can't afford them, buddy.
But don't forget,
we got budget issues. We got cap issues.
That's it, man. But don't forget, Jerome Bettis always loved his one fullback that he always had for a lot of years with the Rams and the Steelers, Tim Lester. So,
that's a good point. You're bringing up some good history.
Yeah.
I'm glad your mind is sharp. I'm glad your mind's sharp because you're not seeing all your sweeties out there.
Oh, man, I tell you what, it's hard. Levine, the talking machine, to practice this social distancing, but I've been doing it, brother.
Well, you sound healthy, that's for sure.
Hey, I've been drinking my tea.
Yeah. Which tea is it? Which tea did your daughter sell you now?
Well,
you gotta drink some green tea.
Apple blueberry is my favorite, man. Blueberry is my favorite, but she's about she owes me about maybe 20 or 30 more more packets. She always comes up a little bit short, but whatever she sends me is worth it, man. It's very good.
No, that's good. Hey, I got some red tea with blueberry. It's called Rooibos blueberry tea. It's very delicious. You might like that. I'll have to bring you a sample sometime.
Well, I tell you what, man. Maybe I'll coast past your house with my window down, and you can throw some in from 6 feet away, man.
You can stop by. I still got a good arm. I used to pitch. I could fire that fastball in there for you.
We both were former pitchers.
I'm still looking for like one person that ever saw you pitch. And that's all I'm looking for, just one. Because I haven't heard anybody. Nobody knows that you even had a baseball uniform. They only know you were wearing your uniforms from football from 3 years old. But we'll have to check that out. So how are you holding up? Because I know your fans and sweeties want to know, how are you holding up with not watching sports? I know you watch your 2 films a day, like you told me. So you're still doing that, right? 2 football games a day?
Nothing changes for me. Still watching 2 football games on tape each and every day. Levine, the talking machine. I don't watch the news, don't listen, don't read the newspaper, so I don't really know what's going on. I know that it's still pretty bad. I'm still my favorite. I still watch my favorite sport. You know what my favorite sport is, right, Levine, the talking machine?
No, you got to remind me because I keep forgetting. Go ahead.
My favorite sport is the greatest sport of all time is professional wrestling. So I taped Monday Night Raw last night, and I taped wrestling on Friday nights, and it's a little strange because they still have it, but they got wrestlers wrestling in empty arenas, but it's still a great sport, and I don't know why people think it's not real when they be putting people through tables and slamming them. And
here, I'll tell you this much: they might be great athletes, but it's all scripted. Okay, that's how simple this is. It's all scripted, my man.
Well, I talked to a few professional wrestlers before my lifetime, and they co-signed that it is real. It's not fake, and I agree with them, man. And a lot of them got busted up noses like boxers and cauliflower ears and everything else, and they're walking with a limp, and they got hip replacements and knee replacements. So that proves that it's real.
Well, it doesn't take much to prove it to you, so I understand that. But we'll just go with that because my grandfather used to watch the wrestling all the time, and he asked me, I think I was 6 years old, and I'm watching it with him, and he goes, "Alan, do you think this is real?" And I said it back when I was 6 years old. I go, "No, I don't think it's real." He goes, "But they're hitting each other, they're throwing each other around." And I go, "I don't think it's real." So I got a long history of that. And I've even had wrestlers on my show through Tom Liturgy, the great guy with KWSA and ring announcer and does all their writing and stuff. He told me a couple guys would come to the show and they were 330 pounds. I think none of them were more than 160 pounds. So that just proved my case.
Well, Bruno Sammartino, and there wasn't nothing fake about him. That was a strong man.
No, I know. And we had his son on, David. He was great. Told all kind of stories for us. He was great. When we get back to doing shows, we'll have to have him update about the Bruno Sammartino Foundation. So definitely. But he was a great athlete. I had a friend of mine I went to high school with at his house one time, met his parents and became friends, and we talked to him, and his mother said, I grew up right next door to Bruno Sammartino. I remember when he was a skinny kid and he built himself into a monster like he is now. And this was back 30 years ago. She told me that.
Wow.
And then I'm reading a book that you gave me from Jim O'Brien, Golden Arms, and Danny Marino lived in Oakland, and who lived on a street? Bruno Sammartino.
Wow, I didn't know that, but I know one thing. You know, I'm mad with Danny Marino.
No.
I got more right to be mad with Dan Marino. Now, Dan Marino was a legend, a great quarterback, fast release, great leader. You know,
one of the best passing arms in the history of the game.
Maybe the best. But I got a problem with him. I got a beef with him, and what he did was very unfair. Dan Marino, where he grew up at, there was a park by his house that was called Frazier Park.
Yeah.
Frazier Park. Now
I know. I'm reading about it. I read it.
Dan Marino Park. And I was upset, brother.
You have those personal issues. You got to work that out. But yeah.
That wasn't right.
That's in honor of Dan Marino and his work ethic and what a nice guy he is. He donates money to hospitals. He sees Make-A-Wish kids all the time. He helps people out. He's a legend.
Yeah, he's great, but he didn't have to rename the park.
He didn't do it. It wasn't his fault. They forced him. They forced him by naming it. Right. Those things happen.
At least he comes home more often than Joe Montana does. But
sure.
Hey, I got a sleeper for you, Al Levine, the talking machine. Nobody's talking about this kid. The Pittsburgh Steelers ought to consider him. He's a safety. The Pittsburgh Steelers got an opening at safety. You know, the Pittsburgh Steelers brought in 3 defensive backs from other teams that are starring with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The only weak link is the guy they drafted, Terrell Edmonds. And I have a replacement for Edmonds. Here's a guy played at a little small school called Lenore Ryan School. Lenore Ryan. His name is Cal Duggar. Cal Duggar, 6'1", 217 pounds. Al Levine, the talking machine.
He's big.
This guy, he can hit. He runs a 4.40 return. 6 punts for touchdowns in his career. So he is a sleeper the Pittsburgh Steelers really should look at, you know what I mean, in the 6th or 7th round if he's still there. And there's a guy that can come in immediately. Might be the best small college safety they had since Hall of Famer Donnie Shell came in from South Carolina.
Wow. Say his name again. Tell me his name again. Come.
You
I know Donnie Shell.
Okay. Cal Duggar. Cal Duggar.
Remember that, folks.
Kyledugger. Lenore Ryan. Small little school. Enjoy watching film on him, brother.
Wow. Hey, I just have a question. You usually bring up the race card. You forgot to today. Is that a black college? Is that a black college that he goes to?
No, it's Nick.
That's so unusual for you.
But South Carolina State is an all-black college where Donnie Shell went to. Congratulations to Donnie Shell. Finally
in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
No, that is great.
And like I said, there's never been a Steeler bias with the Hall of Fame. You know, this year I think you got
there is.
Former Steelers.
There has been a bias for years.
How can you say that? There's 3 Steelers going in this year.
There should be more. There should be more of those Steelers in there.
Well, this year.
What happened to Faneca? How did he not get in there?
Well, Faneca should have been in. They got 3. They wasn't going to put 4 in. That would have been a record. But listen, do you know what changed this year? And would have been what changed was Dale Lawley, our good friend, a good friend of the show, was on the committee this year, he stepped in for free lunch Ed Bouchette, who was out with a back injury. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's no Steeler bias. Ed Bouchette wasn't fighting. When Myron Cope was there, Myron Cope used to jump up on the table and fight. Here's a mild-mannered guy like Dale Lawley was able to push and fight and get 3 guys in. If Ed Bouchette was still there, no Steelers would get in again.
Wow.
That's the difference. That's the difference. Can you imagine me?
Thanks for telling all our friends that.
Yeah. Can you imagine if I was on the Hall of Fame committee, NFL Hall of Fame, all the deserving Steelers would be in, man.
I know. Even though you rank their drafts a D each year, a D minus. So I don't know how they get to be so good.
Hey, we would have a 10-gun salute for Ernie Holmes going in there, bro.
Why? Because he got shot at by a helicopter. He was shooting that helicopter. What the heck?
A police helicopter and never missed a game.
I know. How's that happen?
Hey, when you're a great player, man. Hey, look at all the fights, the pregame fights and bars that Jack Lambert used to get into, brother. Never missed a game, man.
I know. I can tell you some stories about that off air, seeing him in action.
We want to hear it on air.
I'll save that for another day, but I'll tell you where I saw him at a couple bars in Mount Lebanon there. They had one that I was in a couple times where I saw him many times called the Sunken Cork. It's no longer in business. And there was also the Saloon in Mount Lebanon, downtown Mount Lebanon. Once in a while, I used to go out for a hot toddy, so I did see him in action. Those were the days.
Hey, Levine, the talking machine, who was the most famous person you ever ran into in person, other than Mike Tyson?
I was going to bring him up. That's what I was going to say. I don't know. I met Andy Russell.
Wow.
Met him.
Mel Blount?
I met Mel Blount, thanks to you.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, just some of those old Steelers. Jack Ham, I met him.
Wow.
Yeah, I met a bunch of them. Randy Grossman, I met him when he owned the rib place in Station Square.
Was the ribs good? Good ribs?
They were good. They were good. He had a great rib place. Definitely. No, those were good. Hey, I just want to give an update on baseball. Baseball's been stopped because of the corona, and they'll bring it back when, listen to this, they got 3 points. They'll bring it back when there are no more bans on mass gatherings. They'll bring it back when there's no more travel restrictions, and when the medical experts determine there will be no death risk for players, staff, or fans. So those are the 3 conditions that baseball's waiting for, so they may not even have a season. We'll see how long this goes.
I could live without it. You know, I would cancel basketball forever, Levine, the talking machine. You know, everybody gives LeBron James all this credit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
LeBron James came out and said he will not play in front of the empty arena because he plays for the fans. Well, first of all, on TV, there's millions and millions and millions of fans watching. That's why football is the greatest sport. It's the American-made sport. You're going to see football, even if it means playing in empty arenas. People that play football play for the love of the game. They'll play in empty arenas because they know people are watching on TV and people are gambling.
Well, here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. They have something called big, large TV contracts. So they're making millions and millions of dollars with all that TV money. So they got to have a TV show.
Good point.
So
Good point.
That's the counterbalance to that. Well, hey, it's been fun talking to you. We're going to have to be winding this show down. But I'm glad I could talk to you. Thanks to Dave Cable for letting us do this podcast. He said we may try to do one next week with video. Once I can learn how to get a video thing going here, we'll try to do that. But we've got to cover some sports.
Hey, Levine, the talking machine, before you go, tell Dave, thanks to his son, I made a lot of money. His son's a genius, brother. His picks was right on.
Well, we'll have him back for the next end of the season predictions for playoffs, because Sam did well. He's great at watching football, and he's got to be keeping busy by playing outside with his dad and mom, and his brother. So they got to do that. We're going to wrap this show up, and thanks for listening and watching our show on TV. This will be up. I'm sure Dave will notify us when it is, and we'll post it up, and I'll post it up on Pittsburgh Sportsline. Thanks for listening and watching, all our fans, 6,881 fans on Facebook. We appreciate you. And we're all staying healthy. Stay at home like Smokin Jim, and don't see your sweeties unless they live with you. So have a great day, and stay healthy.